Hello everyone, this is my second episode on the basics of C. Today we're going to talk about variables. So first of all, what are variables? Imagine you have like a cupboard where you store all your stuff. You store your keys, your chargers, everything you need. And you always know you can access it there. Think of a variable as some place you can store some value, which you can access anytime you want. So, first of all, each variable has its own data type. You can have integers, you can have strings, characters, booleans, much more. Today we'll only focus on two of those, but later on I can explain some more if you guys want. So, what we're going to be learning today are integers and strings, or technically characters, but I'll talk about that a little bit later on. So first of all, let's write some pseudocode of what our first project together today will be. Let's say we have a number we like. Let's say we like the number 5. It's here, 5. So we want to store the number 5. Then we want to display what we store. So let's make a new file. Let's call it variable.c. And just as last time, we need to include our standard IO. We need to make our main function. We need to return at the end, and we can write our code here. So first of all, we need to make our variable, and what I forgot to write in the pseudocode, we need to give it a name. Let's call it my number equals 5. It's basically just like how it's in algebra. You write, give it a name, for example x, and give it a value, for example 5. So let's go over here, and to make a variable, first have to write it outside the main function. You can also write variables inside, but it's better to write variables outside. I'll also talk about this later on if you guys want. In a later episode, because this is a more complex topic about scopes, but I can talk about it if you guys want. So let's make a variable. We have to first of all name its data type. It's int because it's an integer. Then we have to say the name of the variable, my number equals, and let's say it equals 5. And then we have to end it by a semicolon, just like everything else in our code. And now, if we want to write that out to the screen, we have to use printf, just like how we did so far. But if we try my number like that, 1 second, like that, let's see what it does. And let's run it. As you see, it only writes my numbers because we have it inside these, so it interprets it as a text, but we need to interpret it as a variable. So how we want to do that is get rid of these, but now another problem will occur. We still have to include these, but separately, so separated by a comma, for example. And we have to also write its data type, so it knows how to interpret it as. In this case, it's a number, so we have to write %d, lowercase d, and there is a different types of tags for all the data types. You can search it online, there's thousands of them, but for numbers you'll usually use %d. just like that. If we save it and run it again, now it will write 5 onto the screen. We also have to write \n to get rid of the out again. And now it writes 5 onto the screen. Now our next task is to add 2 numbers to the screen. To add 2 numbers to the screen, we have to make another number, and my number 2. Let's call that. Let's make the value 10. And here we can just use the same text, but instead of think of this as a placeholder, and it puts whatever is after the comma inside here. So after the comma, if we put my number plus my number 2 and save, compile again, run again. Now we're at 15 since we are putting inside here my number 1 plus my number 2. The next thing I want to talk about are inputs, because standard I/O not only includes outputs, but it also includes inputs. So first of all, we have to make another variable, int, let's say name, and int age. Let's write those two, but we're not gonna give any value for it right now. And we don't want name to be an integer because that's a number, but it's a little bit harder because it technically counts as a string. Everything that is a text is counted as a string. It's called a string. But we can't write string because C does not include anything called a string. We can write character. Character is basically a one letter, and but it will only store one letter if we write that. So what we have to do is put brackets at the end of it. I'll explain later on when we get into arrays why this is, but just know that if we're trying to write some text, we have to use char, and we have to use brackets at the end of it. Now let's go over here and printf and name, and now we have to give a place where the user can get or put input inside. So how we get input is scanf. We write what type of data type it will be. For now, it will be percentage %s, which is a string. But so when you're trying to display or input or output, you can use a string, but for variables you can't use a string. So we can use %s, and we have to give it where we want to store what we get input as. So we want to store the name inside the name variable, so we have to write name. And another thing that we have to add is this sign in front of it. This is because we have to access it as a pointer. I also don't want to get into this right now because it's a much more complex topic, but I'll cover it in the next few videos. And now press the semicolon, and now let's print %s and put the value of it, put the variable at the end, which is name, and the semicolon. And now if we save, recompile, we get 2 warnings, but just don't really care about it, it's not that important. And now let's run it. It asks for our name, let's give it our name, and it outputs what we inputted. So it's working, great. And now I'm gonna give you some homework. I want you to make a program which inputs two numbers and adds them together and prints that out as an output, and another one which inputs weight in kilograms and outputs it as grams. Let's see if we can do it, and in the next video I'll show you how to do it. I'll explain the code how I wrote it, and the next video is going to be about functions. It'll explain to you why you have to write int main right here, why it has to be an integer, why you have to return it. So it will be a very fun episode. Thank you for watching, hope you guys enjoyed it, hope you learned something new, and have a great day. Bye.